Hello everyone, this is Jed Henry from Ukiyo-e Heroes. This is my first process video showing you guys how I make each design for the series. After I've sketched everything out in Photoshop, the first thing I do is I print my design out at about 150% scale, bigger than the giclée size. Then I take all those printouts over to my light table in my studio and I start to piece them together to make one big printout, which I'll then use in the inking process as I trace through the light table to get the lines that I want. And then I tape it together. The paper that I use is called BFK Reeves, and it's a lithography and printmaking paper. I lay my paper out onto my light board with the working side face down. And I put my printout on the back of that, and I tape it down, and I flip it over. And I turn on the light board, and when the light shines through, I can see through the paper, and I'm able to trace really easily the design. And now it's time to start inking with my traditional calligraphy brush and ink. I'm a firm believer in getting the hard stuff out of the way first so that you can enjoy yourself a little more. And for me, definitely straight lines with a calligraphy brush are a challenge. So I'm going to focus on this spear and get it done. The brush that I use is just a traditional Chinese or Japanese calligraphy brush. I've got a couple of each. It's amazing how just having the right tools will give you the look that you're looking for. Just see how nicely and naturally those lines, those very ukiyo-e, Asian looking lines come out of this brush. Again, a lot of people have asked me, hey, how do you get that great line quality? How do you make it look so real? And the answer is I use the right brush, and it almost just draws itself. One other key thing is the ink that I'm using. It's just an India ink, a permanent black ink, but I've added a little bit of water, or I'm using a thinner ink. In this case, I added a little more extra water to my ink. It helps the ink flow out more smoothly. It doesn't bunch up or clunk up in the paper, between the paper and the brush. It flows really nicely. So if you want to try this at home, make sure you get an ink like a Japanese calligraphy ink or a Chinese calligraphy ink, or if you have a thick India ink, add a little bit of water and see how that flows. It should work really nice for you. Areas with a lot of detail like the spear and this falcon character's head, the wings, the hands, those areas require a little bit of caution because obviously those are focal points for people when they look at the composition. They're going to spend a lot of time looking at those, and they need to look really good and they need to look right. So I tend to spend a little time going over those slowly, as opposed to things like clothing, which, in the 19th century ukiyo-e style, like Yoshitoshi and other artists like that, um, they really were amazing at doing clothing that just felt like it was flowing in and of itself. And in order to get that effect, I'm allowed to move over that clothing a little more quickly. Just line quality, really nice lines. So when you trace, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have really nice lines and also really nice composition. It's absolutely essential when you're doing really complicated stuff. So now the Falcon character is done. We've done a bit of fast forwarding, as you can see here. We've moved on through the frog character, and now we're going to be focusing on the clouds. This is a really fun part. The key here for doing these clouds was getting the sketch just how I wanted it in Photoshop so that I can focus on really nice line quality here. I'm not worrying about designing the clouds right off the bat. I'm not experienced enough to be able to do that, just straight with ink, drawing the perfect cloud that does exactly what I want in the composition. So with that sketch and the light board, I'm able to focus on just line quality. As you see me drawing here, you'll see I make the lines that flow horizontally thinner than the lines that bunch up vertically around the edges of the cloud. And that gives me a nice flowing, look like we're going fast. As you can see, I'm just kind of flowing through these clouds really quickly. The key is to not take too much time on these, but just kind of flow through them and have fun doing them. There's this awesome Bob Ross remix video that's going around on the internet. I encourage you guys to go find it. It's awesome. It makes me cry. It's beautiful. But in it, he says, "Think like water when you're painting the water," and there's something to that. Just if you envision the clouds as you paint them, and you move your brush almost like air, like liquid, you'll get the effect that you're looking for. Now that it's scanned in, I take the image into Photoshop. Uh, you can see my email back there. Yep. And I select the whole thing and bring it in. As you can see, I'm erasing around the frog in this one. I decided that I like the original frog better from my original design, so I'm going to keep that. So I'll just get rid of this one, I'll swap that one in, and that's one of the beauties of working in digital afterwards. So now what you see me doing, I'm taking the Polygon Selection tool, and I'm selecting around each area of color that I'm going to want in the final composition. One thing that I do to mimic Dave's process is as I select with this Polygon Selection tool, you can see that I'm trying to run down the middle of the line. And the reason for that is it does mimic kind of what Dave does in woodblock. When he carves a design, he carves the key block first, and then he takes that key block, those lines, and he prints just the lines on a bunch of other sheets of Japanese paper, and then he pastes those down on blocks of wood and carves each individual color field area, the color blocks. And when he does that, he tries to shoot down right down the middle of the key blocks lines so that it helps him as much as it can with registration and getting things to line up perfectly. And there you have it. After I've gone through and I've done everything, there's our finished product. This I'll pass on to Dave and he'll take it back apart and turn it into a woodblock print. Thank you for watching, guys.